to another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Let's go! Well, the first Gas Thursday coming your way. I'm in the normal broadcast confines of my hovel in Massachusetts, and some people are in sunny, beautiful Las Vegas right now. Look at that background. My goodness.
What is up, my brother? Good morning. You see the sphere over my right shoulder? Yeah, 8 a.m. Pacific time out in Las Vegas, International Fight Week. Happy to be with you. It's definitely the best part of my week, Gresh, and that's not hyperbole. It is definitely the best part of my week. I was on a plane on Tuesday. You can be sure we were going to squeeze it in. But, yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. You know, and I'm out here covering the Professional Grappling Federation World Draft, which was yesterday. But I think so much about your schedule these days, right? Because I think a lot about bandwidth, right? Like some of this stuff going on with Jon Jones and even like the UFC 317 creeping. I've been in a grappling world. And I think about you doing all this national radio. You have to have your pulse on like everything right now. You're busy these days. Am I wrong?
No, it's busy times in part because of they got an opening right now, 12 to 3 on Mad Dog Radio until Stephen A gets there. So basically I've been jumping in that spot. I got that through next Wednesday, and then other people just got to me first. Otherwise, I probably would have been doing that show all next week. But yes, literally, I know you and I are going to go about 45 or 50 minutes today, because as soon as I hang up, my little gizmo is already plugged in. I have to connect to New York City, and then it's probably 3 hours of breaking down a lot of the NFL draft. That's if I don't throw this goddamn laptop out the window. The A doesn't work on it, which is a real problem with passwords. So, you know, I'm trying to get into all of my fancy Disney research stuff. And of course I can't access it. I want to throw this laptop out the window already. Yeah. What is it? Visual keyboard on accessibility settings. Look at this.
Yeah. Cody Merritt's going to take the fans down. A little fun 60 minutes of troubleshooting. No, but
the blind leading the handicap, for crying out loud. But you know what, brother? I did a lot of talk yesterday on national radio about the draft and how it was really Cooper Flag and then just everybody else. But even before the draft got started, the team that was talked about the most, clearly, Jay, were the Celtics, because they traded away Porzingis, they traded away Jrue Holiday. But the one thing that I liked is that they didn't give up the store. They just didn't say, no, we're going to wave the white flag. They at least got replacement players back that they can either shovel onto somebody else or who will maybe be a functioning part of this roster just this year.
We talked a lot about the Celtics and what they were going to do in this next season. We obviously don't know when Jason Tatum's going to come back. I may be more bullish than some, but who knows what their plan is, right? Do you really want him to come back too soon at that young age, or would you maybe want to flush that whole year? But hoisting a banner in 2026 is unlikely. So ultimately, I'm glad they're doing exactly what they're doing. You know, in terms of Jrue Holiday, right? Like, yeah, does it suck to see him go? Certainly. And anyone who wins a championship for your franchise, there's going to be a little place in your heart for him, right? So, but it doesn't suck seeing Jrue Holiday leave as much as it did seeing Marcus Smart leave, even though it brought back a banner. So it's a very inevitable thing. Jrue Holiday was great in the community as well. That's not a cliche. Like, dude is the man. And Porzingis, right? Really is what it is. It wasn't anything physical. It was sort of an internal sickness, viral, right? But yeah, you're doing the money thing. But with Porzingis, right? Any rumblings maybe that he'll be gone for a year, but then maybe come back?
No, I don't think so. I mean, who knows? He would have to take a big time discount. And I know that the Celtics with the kid Simons that they got from Portland, if they don't keep him, that's going to be $26 million that would be available for the Celtics to conceivably spend in free agency. I really thought this teardown was going to include guys like Peyton Pritchard or dudes like damn it, I'm blanking on the other 3-and-D. Yeah,
Hauser?
Sam Hauser's got a 4 for 45 contract kicking in at $11 million a year. You figured that, well, somebody who's got a little extra cap space, like you put him on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's a perfect fit. So a team that is really close could look at a guy like Hauser and see that it's good threes off the bench. I think Peyton Pritchard's the biggest bargain in basketball, and that'll be proven this year.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about Peyton Pritchard. I may be the only Celtics fan that has mixed feelings. I think he's vulnerable in the postseason on defense in a big way, and physically. I just think up against it a little bit. But yes, it's a favorable contract. We talked a lot about Derek White, and I think you made a very interesting point last week talking about that piece on the market could really be valuable to other teams. But gosh, we didn't want to get rid of Derek White. So as we sit here today, end of June, day after the draft, they've moved Porzingis and Jrue Holiday, which we believe that's perfect, right? Absolutely. Yep. Derek White still in green and white, and Jaylen Brown still here. I hope there is a way to keep White and Brown there. Do you still think one of those two guys gets moved?
Yeah, no, I don't. If Jaylen Brown and Derek White didn't get traded by now, they're not getting traded, in my opinion, Jay. Unless somebody comes along and gives you something stupid that all of us would go, well, shit, Brad had to take that. Right. Somebody just whatever it is, like a good young player and then a gaggle of draft picks or something like that. But I don't think Stevens is that interested in compiling draft picks. Look, he was the only guy outside the lottery who had the Celtics were the only team that had their own first round pick. Otherwise, 15 through 30, those picks had all been traded. If you go to, there's a website, tankathon.com.
Yeah, you love that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they updated. Maybe they've just moved on to round 2. But if you look at it, 15 through 27 had all been traded. And then 29, 30, they had been traded. Celtics are sitting there at 28. So while Brad Stevens has been willing to trade draft picks, the picks he's gotten back are second rounders because those contracts aren't guaranteed. So you're getting a free look at somebody.
And with the 28th pick in the 2025 NBA draft,
there you go.
Yeah. Boston Celtics select Madrid, Spain's Hugo Gonzalez, right?
Go ahead. And you know what, Jay? And I was pumping up. It was really a point from Jeff Goodman of when you think about Brad Stevens, what college coach is going to be able to bullshit him on a player? Really no one, because of the relationships that he has. So what does he do? He takes a guy from Real Madrid. So Hugo Gonzalez is a little over 6'6". He played in the EuroLeague. He's only 19 years old. Stayed in Europe instead of coming over and getting an NIL bag. So it was more of a perk for him to hang at Real Madrid and whatever goes on over there versus, coming to play at Wichita State or some kind of BS like that. But apparently this guy is, another 3-and-D development dude. Like Baylor Shireman.
Well, and I believe he didn't get a ton of minutes necessarily playing for Real Madrid, but I think they won a title, right?
Right.
Or 20, so I think he was part of a great team. But some of the words that I've heard about this guy, like an effort guy, like super intense, frenetic, like highlight waiting to happen. And I've heard people talk about him being the steal of the draft, right? And we talk about all of Boston sports, and for the most part, we're feeling like from a leadership standpoint, from the coaches, managers are in a good place, right? But if you look at the Celtics and you go one step higher, Brad Stevens, like we feel like we really couldn't be in a better place. And so certainly we like that he was able to move Holiday and Porzingis, like perfect, if you ask me, right? And then to read about this guy, Hugo Gonzalez, it's not going to shock me at all if Hugo can really play.
Well, and let's also remember, there's the investment that's been made in J.D. Davison for him to get minutes now. If you figure Holiday out, J.D. in, similar size. Now, clearly, one's an all-star and one did well in the G League. We got a long way to go. There's Shireman, who, I'm sure they're just willing to wait and let and develop, and maybe he gets a little more minutes next year. The Celtics have not ignored development because I think Brad Stevens, Jay, was smart enough to know that this day was going to come and that the tax was going to be too much. And if he's got to get Like if Baylor Shireman was ready to take the role of Sam Hauser, I think it would make it a lot easier to trade Sam Hauser, and they would actually get something for the guy. But who knows what they think of Shireman at this point. You know, as Missoula saying, no, if you can keep that guy, we'd love to have him off the bench. Here's another thing, too. Al Horford and Luke Cornett are both free agents. So does Al look at the Celtics and say, no, I like it here, I'll work with you? You know, he did before. Maybe Al ends up doing it again, saying, hey, we know this isn't going to be a great year with no Tatum. Well, let's do a 2-year deal, get through next year, and then JT will be back and we can take a run at it. And here's the thing about Cornett. You know, now you got to pay that guy. And I'm not saying, and it's not 10, 20 million a year, but still, you got to pay that guy. And you look at what Daniel Gafford, you look at what Daniel Gafford got in Dallas, Jay. It was 3 for $60. I mean, if somebody's gonna offer Cornett $10 million a year or more, he would be irresponsible to not take that deal. So as I sit here, I'm way more optimistic on Al figuring something out with the team versus Cornett, who might be able to say, Jesus, I got a Powerball ticket out there, I got to go.
I love me some Al Horford, but if I'm the Boston Celtics, I swallow hard and move on from Al Horford. Because ultimately, if you're punting to some extent on next season, you know, you already see, you know, he's become very streaky as he gets older, especially with the three-point shot. And that's a big part of what the Celtics do. Luke Cornett, I don't even think he's hit his prime. You know, you see highlights of him back when he played for the Knicks as an outside shooter. So yeah. I believe Brad Stevens probably very much would like to keep him in the fold. And I hope they do, because I love me some Luke Cornett. And Al Horford, to me, if you're talking about 2 years from now, it's hard for me to see tremendous value in the player.
The thing with Al is his value runs more than just whatever he can give you on the court. I'm not saying he's Udonis Haslem to make the Miami Heat reference, but he's almost at that point. And I think that's why they'd like to keep him in. It's not like, I mean, look, his skills are diminishing, but he hasn't completely lost it yet. He's a big, they respect him. And I think, you know what, Jay, as crazy as it sounds, I think there's a little bit of a market for him. If you're a team that's close and you can find a way to add someone like Al Horford for good depth, then you're looking to do it. So yeah. I know you and I have always disagreed on Al. He's a descending asset because he's getting older, and I think Cornett might just get priced out for the C's.
I hear you. I'm not so sure we disagree that much on Al. If we're punting on next season to some extent, I just don't see it, 18, 19 months from now. Anyway, the board's up here for the conference win. A Celtics plus 550. Gosh, man, that is kind of a low number for a team that might not have Jason Tatum. I mean, like, do you think they would have been willing to pay that luxury tax if they had made a great run, even if they hadn't won the whole thing this year?
No. I think this was the Titanic, or this was the iceberg you were waiting to run into. Yep. Whether it was the Grosbecks or the new guy, it doesn't matter. This was going to happen. Jay, here's what I would say. That number isn't that crazy when you think about it, because I know Orlando made the big trade. I'm sure there's a lot of business coming in on Orlando right now. You have the Knicks, who don't even know who the hell their head coach is going to be. You have Indiana, where Halliburton's down. Now, granted, we have Tatum down, but look at the roster that is still kind of left behind. It's not like they completely punted, and they didn't give away Porzingis, and they just didn't give away Holiday. And, great job by the Celtics in updating their roster page. Not. That's always terrible. But because I'm trying to come together with the lineup. You're still going to have Jalen in a big role, and he'll be able to take over this year. So you still have Jalen, you have Derek White. You probably start Simons and continue to bring Pritchard off the bench. As of now, they have Hauser. If they can find a way to keep Cornett, you still have the semblance of a starting lineup that's going to be competitive. Georges Niang, we haven't even talked about him. Yeah. How does he fit in? He'll probably, you would think Niang might end up starting. because
Yeah,
and
the Eastern Conference, and certainly with Halliburton,
wide open, bro. It's wide open.
It is, and for a team like Cleveland, and I certainly don't know exactly how their roster shakes out, but having a very disappointing exit as the 1 seed. If I'm on that roster right now, I'm like, okay, like run it back, like step in the right direction. I kind of like Cleveland plus 290 at that as I look at that board today. Anyway.
Yeah, I wondered about Cleveland with the tax, but of course, I have an A button that still doesn't work, and I haven't figured out what Cody told me yet. So
good time to move on to the Boston Red Sox then, I guess.
Oh my God. Speaking of a team that doesn't know which direction they're going. So RAFAEL DEVERS, after being traded to San Francisco, basically said, hey, if the Red Sox had asked me to move to first base in spring training, I would have done it. Jay, do you believe RAFAEL DEVERS?
That's a good question. No,
because I don't. No, I don't either.
I don't. And I didn't think about it until you asked, but no, because he was such a curmudgeon in spring training with the third base situation. It just kind of is what it is. And we could go back to some of the things we talked about, Gresh, with him being moved. I'm still a fan of him being moved. Not a fan of them losing 5 straight and, going from 3 games above 500 to 2 under. But no, I don't believe that. Look, you've seen countless times in professional sports when an athlete gets traded, they are the best guy in the building when they get to their new home, right? Jimmy Butler on the Heat versus walking into Golden State and it's all gravy. So, I'm not surprised, but you know what? He's nursing a groin injury now. So now he can't play first base in San Francisco. I still think it's a good move. I'm certainly disappointed in how the last 5 games have gone for this club, though.
Yeah, they're just so streaky and up and down. And the one thing that has been consistent, and I hate this because it's on Alex Cora, is bad base running and bad defense. And it's been years now that this has been a problem. So is it multiple front offices that don't care about defense, or is it Cora not being able to figure it out with these guys in terms of defensively, or are they just lazy asses and they don't put in the work? Who in the world knows? But when you have kids like Christian Campbell who are like, yo, I'll play first base. Kid just wants to stay up, make that big league living. Who wants to get sent back down to Worcester for as beautiful as it can be at times? And that ballpark is pretty dope. I got to throw out a first pitch there, and I got to say, they did a really good job with that ballpark.
When did you throw the first pitch?
Last year. It was last season we went up there and I didn't even warm up. I just jumped on the mound and did it. Fourier did like a cartwheel.
Well, so, all right, on the scale of 1 to 10, and maybe you don't even give a shit, but how would you rate your throw?
Oh, I was a 10 out of 10. I piped it right down the middle. Yeah, I wasn't dicking around. Wait, you kidding me? They got all these people there staring at you. You're going to throw a lollipop up there? Oh, it look like Baba Booey or 50 Cent? Like throw it into throw it into section 333. I know it just disappointed you by bringing that up. Do you know what they're actually doing down here at McCoy Stadium now? They're turning it. They tore it down, sadly, McCoy, and they're turning it into a high school. But they found like 2 time capsules with all this old Paw Sox stuff in there. And they rolled it out at some kind of ceremony. I guess there's stuff going back to like the longest game from like when it was really going on. So, of course, the Baseball Hall of Fame is all over it. And, our vaunted McCoy Stadium is now gone, which is devastating. Yeah. Now they have a communist football stadium.
So one of the things that I've been pining for is for the Red Sox to lock up Alex Bregman to lead this team into the future. And I was talking, and I wanted this to happen even prior to RAFAEL DEVERS. And I thought a great time to do it is when Bregman has this injury. So it looks like you're chomping at the bit. There are some rumblings, from maybe Boris's agent from that side. So talk to me.
Yeah, I think Boris smells opportunity. Hey, this dumb team is liquidating money. So I wish it were more. Boy, Boris looks at it and says, yeah, the Red Sox are going to be the Red Sox and go get, and get Bregman paid. I think it's more of, hey, there's a bunch of suckers here and I might be able to get this guy, close to, they paid him $40 million for the year. So I'm sure that there's got to be a part of Boris who's like, yeah, I can squeeze more out of these people, or really knowing that the fans are going to be restless now. Now that, you throw Devers on top of everything else that's happened, it becomes the situation Devers was in years ago. So if you're Boris, you say, oh, they got rid of Mookie, and look at what they did for Devers. They got rid of Devers. Maybe my guy can be the one to get the $400 million contract now.
I hear you. And that all makes great sense. And I agree with all of that in terms of the conjecture of it. But what I will say is you've talked about lack of leadership in a lot of different organizations, and this one in particular. And I really believe that Alex Bregman was up against it from a leadership standpoint when he arrived because of all the bullshit going on in spring training, because, he was trying to maybe defer to different guys, and then he gets injured, right? I've said this before, but if he was healthy, I think we'd be seeing a lot from him right now from a leadership standpoint. So if I'm the Red Sox, I'm willing to overpay for Alex Bregman for everything he brings. The versatility, being able to play multiple positions, even as he gets into his mid-30s, the stick in that ballpark, and him in that dugout. When someone asked him about the young bats or the young players in spring training, he was really bullish on those young guys, and he wasn't just bullshitting. And I know I'm throwing curses in here, but you know what I mean?
No. But I
would take the bait if I'm the Red Sox here, and I wouldn't mind if they do.
Yeah, I think it would make a lot of sense. It would calm the fans down a little bit. It would give you certainty if there'd be a certain bat in the lineup, and it would fix what's been a problem since Pedroia left, which is second base. Now, had the Red Sox just ridden it out, they could have very easily moved Mookie from the outfield to second base and been able to fix that, but we know that ship has already sailed. And right now, I think the Red Sox, they're investing in young pitching because they know it's ultimately going to cost them money. And if they can get a bumper crop of these young pitchers, that's the easiest way to go get you your bat whenever you need it. And they're not there yet. But if you just go around if this team were upright and healthy and go around the diamond, it would be Casas, Bregman, Story. Well, no, you probably put Bregman a third now that Devers is gone. I always think, Devers a third. But, you still have Campbell. You have those young guys that you mentioned. You're hoping that the young pitching comes through. Walker Buehler doesn't seem to be working out fine. He can just go. He can just go next year. But I would rather the Red Sox overpay veteran pitchers like that for the courtesy of getting them on a 1-year deal to where you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys, they want 3-year deals. That's where I'm okay with the Red Sox overpaying some people. If you want to reserve your right to just look at Walker Buehler for a year and see if he works here, and you give him an extra $2 million to get him to sign for just 1 year, then to me, that's the flexibility you really need. So you're not getting trapped the way you were. And you weren't getting, like that Pedroia deal, they're still paying on that, I'm pretty sure.
Well, and in terms of Walker Buehler, unless I'm mistaken, he had a nice postseason last year. So even though the regular season wasn't good, maybe that got them into it. But gosh, man, I mean, he gives them a great chance to lose every time he takes the bump, does he not?
Yeah, very much so.
So I'm here at the Fontainebleau in Vegas, right? And have you heard about this Hall of Excellence that Tom Brady has opened?
Oh, yes. Yeah, very much so. I brought it up on one of my national shows, and the first caller was, of course, Brady and his ego would do something like that. It's like, whoa, Brady and his ego? What, are you kidding me? And then he sort of explained it to people as to what the hell it was. And what's really interesting? My wife and I, when we went to Vegas for a little convention, we walked through the Fontainebleau and we're blown away at how just beautiful it is.
Oh.
Like, it's killing me seeing the beautiful skies of Vegas behind you on this early Thursday morning. I mean, luckily, my God, look at that. By the way, I love the sphere with the emoji and all that. Yo, that is crazy dope. Right. Look at you.
We won't turn it around and show you what's on the other side.
No. We don't need to be seeing no bears walking around.
So, but in terms of this, you got Roddy laughing in the background, and that's not even what I was referring to. That's
hilarious. Okay.
No, it's funny. Yeah. So, but this Hall of Excellence, right? and I'm sorry, Gresh, I'm going to curse. I'm such a
Do it.
bitch because I'm just a bitch because I see like footage in my room of the Hall of Excellence, and I see Brady's Patriots jersey, and then I see a Tampa Bay Bucks jersey, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like, it just brings me back. I didn't even intend to go here, but bro, I am still, gosh, I want to forget. Like it's sort of easy now that Brady's retired to forget about the Tampa Bay Bucks era.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a statue in Foxborough for Tom. But when I see that Bucks jersey, it still brings back really hard memories for me.
And I understand that, but let me give you the thing that I've kind of wrapped myself around like a warm blanket when it comes to the Brady thing. When people want to bring up how great Mahomes is, Brady beat him with his guys, and then Brady beat Mahomes with somebody else's guys. So that's always the way that I've internalized it. That's how I can justify the Brady existence in Tampa, is that when it came to Pat Mahomes, Brady went into his house and beat him with the old crew, and then beat him in the Super Bowl pretty badly with the new crew. That's pretty dope. So when all those Mahomes people always come at me, I'm like, dude, get out of here with that. Like, tell me when Mahomes is and Brady was like 43 when he beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So not only did he lose to the greatest ever, he lost to him when he was an old man.
Did you see any of that Fanatics convention?
Oh, the Fanatics Fest. Hell yeah. That was crazy. And then the fact that Brady won the Fanatics competition shows you that there must not have been a ton of people who could throw things who were trying to win. Like I saw Michael Rubin trying to throw a baseball. Yikes.
Oh.
It was crazy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Cody says Justin Gaethje was second, and now I'm glad he put that in the Justin Gaethje. Bilal Muhammad played in a celebrity football game with Justin Gaethje one year, and I saw some footage of Justin Gaethje throwing a football. Yeah, like, dude, that's an athlete right there. He could throw a football. It looks
okay. There were a lot of athletes that were there who were trying to throw things, and they were not. It was not good. But yeah, that Fanatics Fest. I mean, listen, your brother will be there next year, so that means you'll be there next year, I'm sure.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't mind though. So Gresh, you know, when you come to Vegas, right? Like I'm in Vegas right now.
Yeah.
I haven't gambled yet, right? Haven't gambled yet. Haven't at the time been working, right?
All right, that's good.
But what often happens to me when I get out here is if I can be disciplined enough just to go to the sports book, right? Sometimes the sports book can crystallize, or when you're playing the sports book every day on your phone, right? When you come to Vegas and you don't go play, I find if I don't play cards and I don't play numbers and I don't do all that and I focus on the sports book, that usually does me right. What do you do when you're out here from a gambling standpoint?
Play Pai Gow. In fact, normally we stay at the South Point. So I got a long story here, but when I used to do the stuff on NBC Sports Boston and we would do the shows from Mohegan Sun, they would give us a room down there, and normally me and the producers would spend the night, right? So we had this one dude who was a producer. You can tell he's a Chinese guy. His name is Kun Hung Avan Lam. Kun. So when you get an email, it says Kun Hung A Lam. But so he was telling me about Pai Gow because I told him I was interested. So here's Kun. He's probably 5'2", little Asian guy walking with me, who was much larger at that time. And, you know, we've had dinner and we've been drinking a little bit. The next thing you know, we're playing Pai Gow. He's shown me Pai Gow poker at the casino at Mohegan. Now, the difference is there's West Coast Pai Gow and East Coast Pai Gow. In East Coast Pai Gow, you're paying the quarter vig and all that shit. So because it's face down. But whenever it's face up, it's straight up. So when I go to the South Point, it's always face up, and then you place your cards, then you do your thing. Here, it's down, and then once you place your cards down, then they flip it over and turn it over. And if they got nothing, that's when you hear people go, la la, blah, blah. They yell up, up. But that's my thing. All of a sudden, here's this, you know, big waspy Anglo-Saxon sitting there beside all these small Chinese people. And all of a sudden, you just hear me go, la la, la la, la la. And they're like, and it was like, and it's all so I say to Kun, I'm like, what are they saying about me? He's like, they think you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's great. So no, I've always played Pai Gow. And you know what I do love at that South Point? There's first of all, sports books are intoxicating. They just lure you into bet, in my opinion. But they have the greatest $1.50 hot dog over there, like in Vegas. It's crazy. Forget slots of fun in that giant 1 pound hot dog. Oh no, they have a hot dog cart in the sports book of the South Point. And my wife likes it. My wife likes it there because of NASCAR. Yeah, what?
So Brady Quinn.
I was gonna say, if you called a glizzy, I'm gonna hang up.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm with you.
It's so stupid. Like Joey Chestnut is not the world glizzy guzzling champion. He's the hot dog eating champion. Seriously.
So that's hilarious. So Brady Quinn doesn't eat hot dogs. And for some reason, about a year ago, I came across a piece of a hot dog under a microscope, Andrew. And something was moving, right? So I haven't had a hot dog in like a year, right? So I just wanted to share that because you were talking about hot dogs. But yeah.
No, I mean, have you ever put a Slim Jim in a microwave? If you've ever eaten a Slim Jim before, seriously, take a Slim Jim out, put it in the microwave to heat it up for like 30 seconds. You won't even get through 15 of it. And you'll look at it and be like, oh my God, I'm never eating another one. So if you like Slim Jim or something like that, kind of the same thing. You just, it's like you never know what is in some of those, but yeah.
So what do you put on your hot dog, by the way?
Oh my God. I'm normally a full boat. So
ketchup, mustard, relish?
No ketchup. I'll be ketchup, mustard, hot dog. Pickles are a must. Not relish. Relish is jammed up pickle shit. I'm talking pickles, like real pickles. Optional, depends. Yeah. I'm not super fussy with it, but I'll tell you, I know that I don't know why people like to castigate others who put ketchup on a hot dog. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
No, and before I quit eating hot dogs, I was going, if you get a good hot dog, you shouldn't need anything on it, right? Some grilled onions and a hot dog. Down in South Florida, they had this place. I forgot. Dairy Bell was the name of the place, and they're based in Quebec, Canada. But they would call a lot of snowbirds in Hollywood, Florida, come from Canada, and they would make these hot dogs, right? All the way they would serve it: grilled onions, toasted bun with butter, and the hot dog itself. You don't need anything on it. Anyway, I'm taking it off the rails. UFC.
No. Totally fine. We got 317 to talk about, baby.
Well, yeah. Are you and your boys going to be placing any wagers? Have you yet? I got some lines in front of me. Talk to me.
I know my boys like Oliveira a lot against Topuria. And
stop there. Stop there.
Please.
Charlie Olives plus 350. Dubronx, Ilya Topuria minus 455. Ron was telling me, I think my brother said, you can talk about the disrespect for the line on the Oliveira side, but John really thinks it's more about the respect for Ilya Topuria. So do your boys, and when I say your boys, Gresh's sons, they are pretty tapped into
20. Yep. Right. They like to wager on UFC. Definitely.
So Cody put in the chat, Topuria should be minus 800. So do your boys like the line on Oliveira, or they like him to win the fight?
No, they like Oliveira to win the fight. And I think some of it is exposure, and just talking with them, it's hey, Topuria is moving up. There's a lot of steam on him, not only from the betting end, but a lot of people in the UFC world, I believe, think that Topuria is landing at the weight that he should be to be the animal that he can be. But come on now. I mean, Dubronx is as good as it gets. And when you think of Charles Oliveira, it is all of the different ways that guy can win a fight. And that's part of the reason why I like Oliveira too. He's got big level experience. He's afraid of nobody. And I know he's had some issues before, but for me, I could see Oliveira finding a way to get a submission.
So I will be shocked if Charles Oliveira wins this fight. Kenny Florian hosts a podcast with my brother John, the Anik and Florian podcast, talks about Topuria in a glowing fashion, #1 pound for pound fighter, and I just couldn't agree with him more. I think this guy is in his prime, at his prime, whatever it may be, and if 155 really is the right spot for him, I just think forget about it. I think the way he went about beating Alexander Volkanovski, my brother John talks about Topuria. Every moment is just super calculated in and outside of the octagon. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he does in terms of Ilia Topuria. And I bet what he thinks he's going to do is going to happen. So gosh, man, I don't like the greatest of all time conversations, but I do look forward to the day where I can talk about Ilia Topuria as the greatest of all time, because I really believe that the pedestal Kenny Florian puts him on, he deserves to be there. And I think he's going to prove it Saturday night.
You know, Cody threw into the chat about liking a Topuria finish potentially early. He's a killer. It says, won't give Charles the chance to recover or play possum. Recover versus playing possum are two different things. Because if it's a recover, then it's you've hurt him and you're going to jump on him and you're going to finish him. If it gets into the whole play possum, you know, does Oliveira have the ability to lure in an aggressive Topuria and turn it around on him? I don't know.
I hear you. And, you know, it's a fight and it's sports. So, you know, we've seen bigger lines and crazier things have happened. One thing that I think is sort of interesting, and I don't think my brother will mind me bringing this, but Ilia Topuria is in the red corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, Oliveira's won a belt at this weight class. And I understand Ilia Topuria, right? But I think perhaps John thinks that's an interesting point, that Topuria gets the red corner over a man who is a champion. But I actually think Topuria deserves the red corner, because last time he fought, he won a belt with this promotion.
Yeah, you have two guys that are championship worthy. So
Yeah,
however they parse that out, that could be just a coin flip thing. Then we have Pantoja and Kai Kara France, in which I love Pantoja in this fight. No disrespect to Kai Kara France, but I maybe I'm on the wrong end of it. I don't know. The betting is minus 230 to Pantoja. Kai Kara France at plus 190. Yeah, I like Pantoja to win that one.
Yeah, when I look at Alexandre Pantoja on paper in a sports book, it looks like it says Merab Dawalishvili, right? Mm-hmm. For me, in terms of, am I really going to go against that dude, right? And I love watching Pantoja fight. But Kai Kara France is a little bit of a wild card for me. I do believe there most certainly he could land something that could get the champion who's defended this thing multiple times now, right? Everybody has a time where they could. So I do think from the Kai Kara France standpoint, he's got to be super confident right now, and perhaps getting this opportunity at the perfect time where it could be sort of the perfect storm. But no, I'm with you. I like Alexandre Pantoja. But I would be hesitant to go crazy in the sports book, because I do think continuing to defend is a big challenge. You know?
No, I definitely can see that and understand that. I think both of these fights are bettable. I don't think it is push your chips to the center of the table bettable. You know what I mean? Like
two-team parlay, Pantoja, Topuria. I've heard a lot of people that minus 137. Gosh, it just feels square to me, right? It just feels square. And he's throwing Renato Moicano in there, so that's a good place to go. That means Cody must like Money Moicano. Say it in the chat if you don't, Cody. Gresh, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I think this is the fight of the night. Moicano Dariush. I think this has a chance to be look at the odds, minus 115, minus 105. You really don't have a favorite. I love Money Moicano. I first of all, I like the personality. I like the work ethic, all of that. But Beneil Dariush, the crafty veteran, not that Moicano doesn't have a lot of experience, I wouldn't bet this fight, but I can't wait to watch this fight.
You know, Beneil Dariush believes that he deserved the opportunity to fight Islam Makhachev when the opportunity was granted to Renato Moicano. And obviously Moicano was on a winning streak and was a hot commodity. But I think Beneil Dariush is going to be angry and hungry here, not that far removed from an 8-fight winning streak. So I think it's a pick'em fight for a reason. And Dariush can handle himself on the ground, you can be sure, with Renato Moicano. I wouldn't touch this fight with a 10-foot pole in terms of from a standpoint. I like Renato as a friend. He's opened a gym now in South Florida. His wife is either about to give birth or he has another child on the way. It's fascinating to me, but I think Beneil Dariush is very dangerous here, but without knowing, right? And I know John, I don't know if he met with both of them yesterday, but without knowing where both guys are, right? Mm-hmm. And how married to this game they've been over the last 6 months individually. it's very difficult for me to know which way this fight goes. I can see it going either way, so I lay off. And I kind of know Dariush a little bit, and gosh, man, he was in that conversation with Merab and Bilal. They have these long winning streaks, Ferguson, and he didn't get the opportunity to fight for the belt. So I think Dariush is hungry here, and I think he's pretty dangerous.
And I like Dariush because of the mix of gray. I think that's something that you and I can both appreciate. That
one of the few guys in the world that's gone gray earlier than me. By the way, I did trim a little of the lettuce, Gresh. You know?
Looks good. Looks good.
Yeah, a little bit of it, but Dariush went gray kind of early. I don't know. I wonder what both guys, if you were to sit down with them individually behind a closed curtain and be like, Hanato, what's up? Where do you see yourself in a couple of years, right? Is Hanato chasing the belt again? I know he wanted Dariush again. Anyway, go ahead.
Normally when you want money, you're chasing the belt. So that's kind of the way I would look at that. And then Van against Royval, it's another no-touch fight for me. I would have, again,
I agree. And it's a pick'em fight as well. And I've heard both sides of this. To me, if I were looking to bet on this fight, I love Joshua Van. However, fought very recently. Cody, maybe you could tell me, a few weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And sometimes stacking back-to-back camps can be very beneficial. But Brandon Royval, I believe, has a couple wins since he fought for the belt. And I think it's sort of a Royval with a full camp right now. Well, yeah, I lay off this one too, Gresh, and it's not trying to be soft, but I can make an argument for both sides.
Yeah, and I if I were betting it, I would go Royval because of what you said. Van did, you're right, he fought a couple of weeks ago, that turnaround, but this is a step up, though. Not that Van can't handle it, but this is championship level competition. This is the moment Van has been waiting for to prove himself. Whereas with Royval, it's, I'm going to get back to where I was. And like you said, a couple of fights since fighting for the title, to me, this is a real sort of jump up moment for Joshua Van.
I agree. I think it's a very similar moment for Joshua Van. And he fought Bruno Silva June 7th. Right? Is that correct? Yes. Van defeated Bruno Silva June 7th. But I think it's a very similar spot for Joshua Van as it was for Ignacio Bahamondes, who lost to Rafael Fiziev last weekend, right? It's sort of when Joshua Van, right? I mean, I think he's got the power to maybe make it dangerous for Royval, but you beat Royval, then you inject yourself into this conversation. But if you don't, and you're Joshua Van, right? It could be that matchup that just is not great at this time, in the same way for Ignacio Bahamondes, that Fiziev matchup Fiziev did a lot of great things, just wasn't a great matchup at that time. So I think for Joshua Van, there is some real risk here, but the reward will be there if he can get through Royval.
Yep, I'm with you on that. So a couple of no bets on the main card fights. I know some will have to dig in deep on the prelims or the early prelims. A nice card top to bottom though. You're not getting gypped anywhere. You're sitting down early. I know, like me and the boys will be. You're gonna be entertained. And because we're only going 45 minutes today, I guess I'll have to, save my Jon Jones stuff for Mad Dog Radio coming up in a little bit.
Well, that's good because I'm sort of team Jon Jones as an owner.
No, I know.
Boxing championship. Now, whatever. We could go there all day. But quickly before we jump to Jon Jones, quickly in terms of this card, right? Jack Hermanson versus RoboCop, right? Peyton Talbot, Felipe Lima were the two fights we didn't make, right? So International Fight Week, and everyone talks about, the UFC doesn't have stars, right? What did they put together? You're going to watch, right? So I do think while this may be a little bit of a valley for stars in the biggest show on earth, I think things are going to turn around very quickly. But in terms of Jon Jones, and I don't know how much we touched on this, yes, he's retiring, not going to face Tom Aspinall imminently. But if you're asking me if by the end of 2026, has Jon Jones fought in mixed martial arts, I think there's a pretty decent chance that we may see him come back at some point because this time in his life just probably isn't right. He's at a different place in his life,
Yeah, but he's also now got to understand that everyone is hip to the game. And that for those like Dana White and others who talk about him being the greatest of all time, it's no different than anybody else in any other sport. People look in and people start to dig into the resume and start to see how, because of his actions, certain timings of fights got screwed up. And now we have Dana White saying, hey, that fight was done with Aspinall. We were going to have it. So now it looks like there's extra pressure on Jon Jones for walking away from what would have been the real legacy fight at heavyweight. Because now if Tom Aspinall goes on and has a great career, which I think a lot of people do, I know that Cody says extra pressure on Aspinall now to kind of come through. Great. That's fine. Here's the thing. If you start looking at Jon Jones's legacy on its own and you start to add his actions into it, it starts to tear down the legacy a little bit.
You know, it's fair. There's just so much unknown ultimately with a lot of this stuff. And it's not my favorite talking point in a lot of ways. And maybe it's because, yeah, when I've gotten to know him a little bit personally, right? And he made me feel very good as I'm venturing into a new career for myself with broadcasting. So it's real hard for me to sit here and talk about some things that I don't know a ton about. But quickly to address what Cody said about in terms of the pressure for Tom Aspinall, I think all the pressure lies on that motherfucker walking facing Tom Aspinall across the octagon. I think this is another guy who has a chance to be an all-time great. Gosh, I think the pressure on Aspinall is not fighting and sitting on, and you know what I mean, and training not to fight. So gosh, man, I'm
another guy wasting away, waiting for Jon Jones to make a decision or to not screw up or to not have to force an event to be moved or something like that. It also goes to show, and I've said this before, Jay, and I said this on Mad Dog Radio the other day when the Jon Jones news came out. To me, other than maybe McGregor, but McGregor's zenith past UFC on a money track that it kind of took it out of the equation because you're not really doing business anymore with Conor McGregor. But in terms of Jon Jones doing business with Dana White, it's the first guy that, in my opinion, Dana White has really kind of had to coddle like a pro athlete. There are guys in even Belichick, Randy Moss was a pain in the ass, but for 23 touchdowns a year, you'll deal with someone who's a bit of a pain in the ass. And I think there's a little bit of that with Jon Jones and Dana White, whereas Dana White normally dictates to the fighter. This is the rare guy who was like, nope, no, we're going to do things my way. And Dana kind of had to go with that. And there aren't many in that sport who have forced him to do it that way.
I think that's very well put. I agree. I agree.
And I'm sure that's got to be tough for him, but it also goes to show in 2012, Dana White was MFing him and his team. And then 13 years later, he's screaming from the mountaintops how this guy's the greatest ever, but somehow can't get him in a ring, which is crazy.
So I think this is the second straight week where we don't talk about the New England Patriots on Gas Morning Drive, which has a little bit of a Boston sports rub. So what I will say, when that calendar turns to July, because gosh, there's still so much to talk about with that football team as that season goes. And we talk about as we get older, you're old as fuck, so am I. The months and the weeks fall off the calendar. So hopefully the Patriots can find their way into our 4 topics next week.
No, I think they will. Camp is coming up. It's right around the corner. I don't think there's a lot of questions going in, meaning roster and stuff like that. It might be who's going to start here, who's going to start there.
Questions, but
oh yeah. Oh look, I was watching a thing the other night on somebody was talking about Josh McDaniels and getting Drake Maye to a point to where he's going to start to feel real comfortable with him. And how Josh is already starting to understand the kid, like from a play calling standpoint. That's the other thing that people forget about. Yes, McDaniels called plays for Tom Brady. It's still Tom Brady, and he had his preferences. So, and it's not like Brady was out there just doing it on his own because Belichick would never allow that. So I think we got to give those guys a little time to kind of get together, and apparently they're off to a good start.
I just want to say one thing because you talked about Brady and his preferences, right? One of my favorite moments of all time. And for those of you youngins that don't know how graciously Jrue Bledsoe handled things when Tom Brady became the starting quarterback, there's a clip of Bledsoe on the sideline sort of asking Brady. He was just so active as the backup quarterback to Brady and so invested in Tom, and a big part of why they achieved that first championship. But he went up to Tom and he's like, all right, kid, what do you like? There's this clip of I'm sure you've seen it where Bledsoe's asking Brady what he likes. And I don't know. I just think so. When I hear you say that, that's really, really important because I think the ownership, Drake Maye must feel some ownership in this offense if he's going to be able to be that leader. So
no question. And the backup quarterback, normally has a decent feel. There was one that I used to work with who told, I think it was Charlie Weiss in Minnesota, let the kid go throw it. And then in the second half, Bledsoe threw for like 400 yards or something insane like that. Well, have fun in Vegas, brother.
I appreciate it.
I can't wait to text you as you're sitting beside Joey Diaz firing down 200 milligram Death Stars.
Oh, I wish. I was so pissed I wasn't there in Newark because, he's the man and I haven't met him yet. I haven't,
Oh, pretty cool.
Coast, but how about this?
There's the encore in Vegas, and I am jealous, friend. All right, I gotta for those who may be watching us on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram right now, you'll be able to catch me on Mad Dog Radio in about 10 minutes. So you can flip over to channel 82, and we'll be back. We think next Tuesday with another edition of Gas.